So you want to speak to natives? Well, so have I for majority of my language learning journey. So I thought I'd come here to talk a bit about my experience with speaking to natives, what I've learned along the way, some do's and don'ts, and how you could probably maximize the potential of the interaction when you go up and talk to them. So a bit on why I want to talk to natives, right? That's been my primary goal of learning languages, because I want to expose myself to as many people as possible, learn from them, talk to them, get to know who they are, why they are like that, and get to know more about their culture. So that's my primary goal, and the secondary is obviously to test your speaking skills, because I feel that interactions with natives might not improve your grammar or vocab, because that's something you would have to work on your own with, but your speaking skills and your ability to mirror people definitely increases when you talk to natives, and it helps you pick up on some things that might be specific to that target language or that country, like how the politeness level changes with the person you interact with, and some slangs that are most often not taught in textbooks, right? So those two are my reasons. But yeah, I don't have a lot to show for it, because I'm still learning and I'm still trying different things. But I've mainly interacted with natives in two circumstances, and I'll come to a third circumstance where I'm trying to improve my speaking skills on the back end and on my own, so that I can implement them in the two scenarios that I talk about. The first one is definitely to meet natives IRL. And of course, if you have the opportunity and privilege to visit your target languages country, you can definitely do that, meet natives in their actual environment, experience the country, and so on. But for those who don't have the opportunity to go as yet, there are ways that maybe you can find natives in your country if they tend to migrate to your country a lot, right? The first would be obviously to find them naturally in your workplace or in your social circles or people who live around you. The second way would be to kind of find communities online, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, that are regional. So obviously a lot of communities or natives that migrate tend to form their own communities. So maybe you can try to find people from there online and try to ask them to meet, or if you can join them for any event that they might be having. And a third way is definitely going from events, is to go through these cultural events that are organized by embassies as well. So for example, the Indo-Japanese embassy organizes several events across India, especially in Delhi. You also have the Korean embassy and Korean cultural center that has a lot of events, and a lot of people go there to learn languages, right? And you can also find a lot of native tutors to kind of teach you and speak to in Japanese. But I mainly want to talk about how to approach natives, right? Because I think that's something I was struggling with, because I did not have, number one, the courage to kind of go up and start talking, and number two, I didn't know what to say after I just went up, and then if I spoke in Japanese, I'm like, my brain would go blank. So the first strategy that I adopted was I by hearted this line that said, すみません、日本語を勉強しています。ちょっと練習したいんですから、話すかけると思いました。Which basically means that I'm studying Japanese and I wanted to practice speaking, so I'm here to talk to you. And most people would welcome me with a nice smile, and they would be like, 日本語上手です and they would be gracious about it. Some people would be like, okay, what do you want after that? So you can imagine that it's always a hit or miss with that, and usually people are very welcoming if you talk to them in their native language, because they appreciate someone trying to learn their language. But here you're going with a fixed intention that you want and need something from them, and usually when people approach you as well, if with something that they want, especially if you don't know them, it's kind of difficult to indulge them, right? So the second approach that I have shifted to and works decently is that if I meet a Japanese person, I would just ask them, maybe in English or otherwise, about something that they're carrying or some book that they're reading. For example, a lady was reading a Japanese book next to me at a cafe, and I simply asked her, すみません、日本人ですか？これは日本語の本ですか? Meaning, is that a Japanese book. And she obviously immediately understood that I could speak and understand Japanese, and she was pretty surprised. And we started naturally talking in Japanese, and that conversation went on for about an hour. And why it went on for an hour was because, number one, I was curious about her. Number two, we were talking about something that was related to both of us. In this case, the context of the environment, the cafe that we were sitting in, and the fact that we both like to read books. And number three, I wanted to get to know her as a person. So that way, it ignites interest in both the parties, because I am obviously interested in the target language, but they also become interested because you're seeing a person who knows your language, but they're also asking you questions about yourself. So that seems to be working a bit better. And the point to also understand is, whatever level you're at in terms of speaking, it's always helpful to have a few phrases handy and a few topics also handy when you're trying to talk to natives, because you want to avoid kind of going blank. And when I was talking to this lady in the cafe, I talked about some generic topics that I would ask anyone. It's like, so, itzukara koko ni sundimasu ka? Since when have you been living over here? And seikatsu wa dou yatte chigaimasu ka? How is your lifestyle different from when you were in Japan versus here? So, having these broader pockets, at least like in your target language, especially just in your pocket, something to talk about that you can ask anyone in this context, is definitely helpful. And that brings me to my second scenario of talking to natives, is through online mediums. So I've not had a lot of experience with this, but two things that I would mainly recommend is, obviously, number one, apps like Hi Native, Hello Talk, where you can just join voice rooms, talk to people, create your own voice room, ask people from Japan or your target languages country to join in, and just start having a conversation with them. And if the vibe gets really good, you can move the conversation to chat, and you can become like pen pals or try to correct each other's language as well. And Twitter has also really worked for me, because you can sometimes tweet about, hey, I'm looking for these particular resources, hey, I'm looking for this particular language buddy, with a hashtag lang Twitter, and that's has a lot of helpful people ready to provide you resources, ready to provide you help. And yeah, and apart from that, the second online method would definitely be to take classes from italki. There you directly get to speak to a native. If you want, they can also direct you towards others who might be willing to speak. But if you specify in your italki classes that speaking is something that I want to improve, your italki teacher can also alter the level or the topics that you would want to speak about or get better, depending on your requirements, right? So yeah, the second method of speaking to natives online is definitely very intentional, because everyone else also comes with direct intention, which is to learn or teach languages. So there's not a lot to think about how you approach things, but rather put that effort in to continuing. But yeah, talking to people IRL can be scary. It also can be fun when you try more and more of it. And obviously, it'll always be a hit or a miss, because there are cases I've seen or I've experienced where I try to talk to people in Japanese, and then their responses might be a bit dry, but that's understandable, because not everyone wants to talk a lot, and not everyone wants to extend the conversation. And that's when your topics in your back pocket become pretty handy, and you can get the hint when they're not responding, and just walk it off and approach the next person, because yeah, keep at it. So I hope that helps. I hope to see you in the next video. Do let me know what you thought. This was pretty unscripted, pretty chill, but yeah, comment down below, like, subscribe.